Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. This story is a bit crazy and hard to follow, but I'm going to do my best to keep it straightforward because I really need help. I can't believe this is actually my life. I, 17 female, live with my dad who recently got remarried to a woman. I'll call her Sandra for this post. Sandra is a horrible woman. You might think I'm just saying that because I'm a teenage girl and we're wired to hate our stepmoms, but I swear this is different. My mom passed away when I was really little, and my dad was so heartbroken he never dated until Sandra. So for over 10 years, it was just me and dad, and things were good. We obviously both missed my mom, but we became really close and almost like best friends. We call ourselves the dynamic duo. And even though we are a small family of just two, it never felt lonely growing up with just my dad. When I turned 16, he sat me down and let me know that he had met this woman online. I didn't even know my dad knew how to turn on a computer, let alone create a dating profile. But this was just the start of the surprises. I hate to admit that I don't know my dad as well as I thought, but that's where I've continually found myself throughout the last year. Even though I was shocked to hear he was dating, I wasn't upset. I have a boyfriend myself, and we have been dating since 8th grade. I understand that romantic love is important and something really special, and even though it was kind of weird for me to think about, I wanted that for my dad. So I was open to meeting Sandra and really curious about what kind of person she would be. My dad is an outgoing guy. He's the life of the party, funny, loud, and never meets a stranger. He loves sports. He adores beer, and his waistline shows it. He's also a huge fan of rock music and loves to go to concerts. That was something we used to do together a lot. I figured the woman he chose to date would probably have at least some of these things in common. Sandra was, let's just say, different. The first thing I was struck by was her appearance. I'm not saying my dad is some hunky guy because he really is just a typical looking middle aged man. His hair is thinning on top and he could afford to lose a few pounds. But for some reason, I imagined that his love interest would be a woman who was kind of athletic looking, or at least one who dresses modern and has a lot of energy, since it takes a lot of energy to keep up with my dad and his interests. Sandra was extremely frail looking and dressed like she was going to church, even though the first time we met, it was at a brewery for happy hour on a Wednesday. I didn't want to be judgmental though, so I tried to look past that. I figured maybe she had a job that she was coming from that required her to dress like that. Librarian, maybe? Although the way she kept her long black hair unbrushed and hanging in her face didn't seem very professional. I walked away from that first time meeting Sandra confused about why my dad would be interested in someone like her, but open to giving her another chance. I mean, never judge a book by its cover, right? Unfortunately, things only got weirder from there. First, Sandra convinced my dad to give up drinking. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with not drinking, but my dad has always loved to have a cold beer at a baseball game, and I couldn't understand why there was anything wrong with that in Sandra's eyes. My dad told me she is just very health conscious and wanted him to be healthier, but I don't buy it. She is skin and bones, and I've never seen her eat a single vegetable. She's always eating this weird porridge thing. It looks so bland and disgusting. She tried to get me to eat it once and I refused. But my dad willingly eats it for most meals with her. Ever since she moved in with us, I have to cook my own meals and even grocery shop for myself because she will only make that stupid grape porridge. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. She moved in with us way too early, if you ask me. Dad and Sandra had only been together for a month when he announced to me that she would be moving in. If that had been the only news, I might have been okay. But no, of course, it couldn't be that simple with Sandra. Dad also let me know that she is apparently allergic to dogs, and so my dog, Buster, would have to live outside. I was upset at this news, but not nearly as upset as I was when I came home from school one day and Buster was gone. Our back fence was open and banging shut in the wind, making it seem like Buster had gotten loose and ran away. But that made no sense to me because that back door was really tricky to unlock, and Buster never ran away, even if he wasn't within our backyard. In fact, I regularly opened the front door and let Buster wander out to go into the bathroom, specifically because he had no desire to run away. Then, when I was talking with my best friend Anna on the phone that night and crying about how we hadn't been able to find Buster, she mentioned that her mom had happened to drive by our house that day while we were at school and saw a blonde woman, definitely Sandra, loading up Buster into the car and driving away. So the proof is there that Sandra definitely took my dog, and I don't know whether to think she sold him to another family or if she just dumped him at the local rescue league. But either way, I was heartbroken and just wanted answers. I confronted Sandra the next day while my dad was in the room and secretly hoped he would back me up and light into her. Instead, he totally seemed to buy her lies, that she had no idea what happened to the gate and that Buster must have ran away. Liar! I wanted to scream, but kept it in. There have been some other red flags leading up to today, but they're hardly worth mentioning in light of what's now happened. Nothing can compare to what I discovered yesterday. We were over at Sandra's brother's house. He's just as weird as she is. And all the adults were in the kitchen talking while I scrolled my phone in the living room and Sandra's weird nephews worked on a puzzle. Sandra and her brother both don't believe in television, which is a whole other thing. She convinced my dad to get rid of our TV, which I still can barely believe since the man loves sports more than life itself. Or so I thought. Anyway, I was half eavesdropping on the conversation happening in the kitchen when I heard Sandra's brother ask, "Does Bill need more medicine? I just brought some back if he does." Bill is my dad. And what medicine? Since losing my mom at a young age, I'm a little paranoid about my dad's health. I used to go with him to all of his checkups. I know that he doesn't have any health conditions requiring medication. Just then, my dad came out of the bathroom and Sandra asked him, "Do you need more vitamins, honey?" He said yes. But why would she call them vitamins while her brother called it medication? That seems like a big difference to me. So the brother went up into the attic and came down a bit later with this mystery bottle of medication, vitamins for my dad. I was instantly on red alert and started praying that my dad would not open that bottle until I had a chance to research and find out what the heck was really going on. We finished dinner, more stupid porridge, that's what her weird brother eats too, and headed home. As soon as we got home, I started asking my dad about the bottle. He told me not to worry about it, that Sandra had helped him realize he has anemia, and so he's been taking these special vitamins to boost his iron. I asked him, didn't he think a doctor would have caught this before? And he said that Sandra had explained to him how modern medicine can't be trusted and that the doctors these days actually want you to stay sick. What? My dad has never been one to spout conspiracy theories like this. Rather than waste my energy arguing with him, I decided to wait until he fell asleep to do more digging. Honestly, I was really scared at this point. This man was nowhere near the dad I knew. After he and Sandra went to bed last night, I snuck into their bedroom and found the bottle of pills on his nightstand. I took them back to my room and quickly Googled the name on the label. These were definitely not iron supplements. These are mind-altering medications typically used to sedate patients with dementia. The more I read, the more I realized that my dad has all the symptoms of someone being drugged. His energy is a lot lower than usual. He goes along with anything Sandra says or does. He has lost interest in his former hobbies. He spouts off the same crap that comes out of her mouth, almost like he's half asleep. I decided to dig a little deeper and see if there was evidence online of these pills being used to harm someone. I mean, why would Sandra want to harm my dad? What I found is that these pills are often used for behavior modification in conjunction with hypnosis. I thought about all the times I've seen Sandra lead my dad in meditation in the morning. Could this be her hypnotizing my dad? I snuck the pills back into their bedroom and put them on the nightstand so that I wouldn't raise any suspicions. On my way out of the room, I noticed a suitcase sitting on the top shelf of their closet. For some reason, I just felt in my gut I needed to check out this suitcase. I quietly lifted it down and looked inside. It was full of pamphlets about some kind of organization called the Pathwalkers. There was also a prescription for these pills written out for a man I've never heard of, and then some information about my dad's bank accounts. How do I bring this up to my dad without him being angry that I've snooped through their things? Am I meddling too much, or should I keep digging? Wow. Okay, I definitely think Sandra is in a cult and has been brainwashing my dad to try to get him in it as well. You guys gave me lots of good information about the Pathwalkers and all the dark stuff they have done. I definitely think she and her brother were plotting to get my dad to join the cult and then give up all of his money to them. I decided to switch out the pills with just regular aspirin to wean my dad off of these drugs and hope to see his personality come back. My plan from there is to present him with the suitcase and hope that he comes to his senses. I've got an appointment this afternoon with a police detective as well. It turns out the Pathwalkers are under investigation, and this officer is very interested in hearing about the things Sandra has been doing to my dad. YNTA. You have to snoop around. Your dad could be in danger. Keep pushing, girl, and don't give up. This is scary stuff, and your dad is so lucky to have you in his corner. YNTA. And get the police involved ASAP. If it's not a cult thing, at the very least, it's a scam that she and her brother are trying to pull on your dad. My late sister and I started a business 25 years ago. She always had a passion for food, and I was always good with numbers, so we combined our skills and opened up a restaurant together. She was so excited about following her dream and being able to provide for her kids with it. 5 years later, she became unwell and died weeks after learning she had cancer. My sister and I talked about the business extensively. Before she died, she signed ownership over to me. She had me promise that if her kids wanted in, they would take over her share in the future, which I agreed to do. At the time, we had discussed her husband and his place in it all. She had said she did not want him to control her share after her death because she did not want his future wife and future children to potentially inherit from her. That she wanted it to be her gift to her children if they wanted it, not something that went to his new family once she was gone. Both kids became interested and have taken over their share. They will also take over mine someday, as my children are not interested. My sister's husband did remarry, and he did have more children, as well as stepchildren. Bad blood started to form after he remarried. His wife didn't like that her husband had no idea what the business was worth and didn't like that he wasn't responsible for my sister's half. That would eventually be my niece and nephew's share. She told me she felt it was their job as parents to have a say over what happened to it. I told her, no way. He offered to buy me out of the restaurant and I turned him down. He told me he didn't like knowing it would exclude most of his family if his kids wanted their share. I told him it would potentially include all of my sister's children, though. When the kids took over their half, they chose not to give access to their stepfamily. They warned me that their half-sister was already asking to be included. She's the oldest, she's 16. She had asked me before if she could be a manager and wanted to share her siblings' portion of the business. The kid's dad approached me recently and told me he wants me to allow her to work here and join the family business alongside his kids. He said my niece and nephew would benefit from forming a closer relationship with their half-siblings and that it would mean so much to their half-sister to be welcomed in and made part of everything. I told him that was not happening. He grew frustrated and then accused me of being a monster and of interfering in his life after remarrying. He told me I was doing nothing but encouraging othering in his family, that it was unfair to punish him for moving on. I told him I was not punishing him, that his adult children had refused and that was what he should focus on. But he needed to understand that his minor children are not my family and therefore are not entitled to have anything passed down from me. He left after accusing me of acting like I hate his kids. AITA? NTA, you are following your late sister's wishes, nothing more. You don't owe him anything. Seems like he and his new wife are trying to get involved for the money, not the love of the business. NTA, you have kept your promise to your sister when many would have given in to your former brother-in-law's relentless manipulation. She was right to entrust her share to you, since her husband and his new wife would have surely tried to insert themselves in the business and divided her half of the business among all the children. I, 26 female, have a special needs daughter, 9, that I struggle with getting to eat meals. She's extremely picky, very sensitive about food, loses interest in eating, and usually isn't hungry at traditional times. I've struggled for years to get her to eat meals with me, but to no avail. Trying too hard usually deters her worse. So we've created a system where I stock up bulk on foods and snacks she's willing to eat. She goes to get what she wants when she's hungry throughout the day, and we've managed to get her to maintain her weight. My sister, Jeannie, 28 female, asked to move into my apartment when her boyfriend left her and the kids a few months ago. She has 3 kids under 6 years old. Her kids are wild and always into everything. I don't mind them acting like kids, but I worry about them getting hurt. I told my sister she needed to do a better job of keeping her kids safe. She took that and ran with it by getting child safety locks on just about everything. I didn't mind because I feel more secure knowing they can't stick keys in sockets or get into the bleach. However, she recently added a lock to our fridge because her middle son, 3, has a food allergy. He figured out how to open the fridge and came very close to eating something he was allergic to before his sister, 6, noticed. I agreed to try out the lock because it was easy enough to get open for me. It wasn't so easy for my daughter. In fact, she can't get it open at all. When I noticed her by the fridge, I try to get it open quickly so she can get what she wants, but usually by the time I see her there, she's lost interest. Because of this, she hasn't been eating nearly as much. I told my sister she had to get rid of the lock because it was affecting my kid. It turned into a fight because she accused me of trying to hurt her son by having food he's allergic to in the fridge and how the lock is for his safety. I offered to move the offending food up higher, but apparently he can climb. Our fight spiraled, and I told her that she had to remove it and to watch her kids better so the lock wasn't needed. She refused again and said she'd do what she had for her kids. So when she left, I removed the lock and threw it away. When she got back and noticed, we got into another fight. We've been feuding over it for the last 3 days, and she said today she's going to get a new one. I asked my mum about it, but she's taking her side since my nephew can get sick off that food if he gets it while my daughter is still eating, even if it's not as much. AITA in this situation? NTA, tell your sis that you were happy to help her back on her feet, but you need to keep your child safe, and she needs to keep her children safe, and at this point, they need opposite things. Give her 30 or 60 days to find a place. NTA, I work with special needs children. No one understands how difficult it is to get them to eat and maintain their weight, especially when they have sensory aversions. It's a matter of her literally being able to develop properly. I'm so glad you found a system that works for you all. What about if you had one cabinet that has a lock in it with the food he is allergic to? That's the best compromise here. Maybe some visual aids on the fridge to remind the boys to not dig in the fridge too. Other than that, you cannot put your child at risk for hers. Deviation in routine, as I am sure you know, can majorly throw kids with special needs, and changing her food routine may even cause her to regress in her eating.